This is Voice of the Cantor Series 2, Cantors Who Have Made Their Mark. I'm Russell Grossman, one of the executive at the European Cantors Association. Thanks very much for joining us this evening or wherever you are in the world today. Let me just explain a little bit about the European Cantors before we go on to introduce Alex. Some of you may not have come across the European Cantors Association previously. The European Cantors Association was established in 2012. We exist to uplift and keep alive the depth, the breadth and richness of Chazanut in all its forms, both traditional cantorial music and respecting and honouring the richnesses of our tradition, as well as modern approaches to the cantorate, looking at what's happening into the future. ECA therefore seeks to strengthen, uplift and highlight the importance and centrality of the cantorial tradition in all its richness and diversity for people to appreciate and to have access to. We're an independent organisation, we are affiliated to no specific branch of Judaism, and we reach across the spectrum of Jewish worship to ensure the unique music of our prayers continues to enhance synagogue services for generations to come. We arrange Cantors conventions along Orthodox lines in the UK and European cities. Our academic wing presents international conferences in partnership with university cantors and musicians. The interviewer this evening is Alex Klein. Alex will be known to many of you, but to those for whom he is not familiar, I'll introduce him. He's always been passionate about the music of the synagogue. He was born in London. He studied at Jews College, attending Reverend Brill's cantorial classes. He settled in Manchester, where he brought significant Jewish artists and cantors to the UK for concert tours. He's been a leading figure in synagogue music in the UK, lecturing widely and heading the Jewish Music Institute's Synagogue Music section. He's now the director of the European Cantors Association. I give you Alex Klein.
Thank you, Russell, and welcome everybody. And I'm really looking forward to this evening. While we're waiting for Alberto, I would like to play one of his pieces, and it's a Habait. I think will be a lovely piece to start with.
Oh
Alberto, it's worth it, and it's lovely that you're here with us after. I haven't seen you for a number of years, but we know each other extremely well, and you've been our guest lecturer and worked with us in London and doing master classes for European Cantors Association, before that to Philharmonic, and concerts abounding. Now, you are Greek born and you came over to the States in 1956 with your parents who are Holocaust survivors. For somebody who's Sephardi and Sephardi background, you sound very Ashkenazic.
Yeah, you know, a lot of Ashkenazim think that there were no Jews in Greece, you know, so it's something you have to prove to people. My father was in Auschwitz. He survived. He survived. He was the strongest man I have ever met. My dad was one of these, I don't know if you've ever had the experience, but I had it all my life. If you sort of slapped him on the back, you thought you were hitting a tree. Honest to God, it hurt. He was so strong, and I think it's the only way he got through. Both that and other things. When he got to Greece, they sent him to the Albanian mountains to fight some fight that wasn't necessary because there was a Greek against Greek. It was very weird. And this was right after the World War II, after all of Thessaloniki had been pretty much wiped out. It's a fascinating story about the Jews in Greece, because you know we have the Romagnotis who were there for 2,000 years or more, and you have the Sephardim who, of course, left after 500 years ago, more than 500 now, but from Spain when we were kicked out in Spain. Most everyone went to Turkey, but a number of them eventually ended up in Greece. We have a beautiful community there. It's small. and I'm praying Emir Hashem now that I'm retired. My wife and I have a plan to go, well, we already have the plane. I hope the plane lets us on. We're going to Greece to have Pesach with my cousin, which would be the first time in almost 60 years. So I'm very excited about it.
How wonderful. I mean, I was first introduced to the music of Salonika by Uri Shevach way back when in I think the 1960s, and it was very, very popular. And unfortunately, the communities in Salonika were destroyed, and so many thousands of years of history. People don't realize that there were Sephardi Jews who were had their own minhagim, and
still do.
Yeah, and still do. So you came over to America, and you ended up in a Orthodox yeshiva, Orthodox school, and studied in yeshiva. So obviously your parents were Orthodox, and a change around from being you're still an Orthodox person, because the neshama is neshama and davening is davening. It doesn't matter where you daven. You know, we pray to the same God. So,
Alex, I want you to know one thing. I'm very proud of my family. I'm proud of everything. I'm not proud in just to be proud, though. They were never Orthodox. We hardly had any of that. The only thing that I had in connection when I was very young, like from 5, 6, 7 years old, I went to they put me in a Jewish school, which was the only one in Athens. And then, of course, by the time I was 8, we were flying to America. My parents were never Orthodox, but they were very Jewish. And, they didn't go out to get food because it wasn't kosher. They went out if they came, but at home was kashrut, but that's as far as it went. I got my Yiddishkeit from the Hebrew Academy of Cleveland. The Chatz Katz, we used to call him. I know it's a funny way to say it. It's Chaim Katz something. Anyway, he eventually became the head of the yeshiva in Cleveland. Very important yeshiva. But when I was a little boy, and I went to school there. By the way, when I was 42 years old, I found out who had paid for all my studies until I got to the seminary, which means my early studies and my yeshiva studies were paid by one gentleman. It was unbelievable. I met him at a wedding when I was Hazzan in Cleveland again, many, many years later. And he just came up to me and said, kid, and he said, I took care of you, I couldn't believe it. I wanted to kiss him, but he was drunk. Anyhow, so I don't mean to change, what he says, but truth is truth. My parents were not yeshiva people, but having gone to the Hebrew Academy of Cleveland and yeshiva, obviously I eventually I was in the line to be Orthodox. I'm somewhere in between.
No, it's just that I was told when you were growing up by colleagues of yours that, you went to various Orthodox yeshivas and had an Orthodox education.
But that's only after we came to America, yes.
Yeah, after you came to America, yeah.
When there was that possibility. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Then you were introduced to opera, or to the beautiful voice of Maria Lanza, which captivated you. So how a feeling of a young boy going to see a film, was it The Great Caruso or one of the other films with Maria Lanza, and to hear that beautiful voice, was that when you felt that was your destiny to be a singer or a chazan or an opera singer? Is that where it all started?
This is going to sound weird, I think, but I've said this, I've told this story a number of times. I'll do it very short if I can. I know where you're headed. I was about 6 years old, maybe 7, maybe 5. I don't remember, I was a little boy. And my father, who of course was God, and I were alone because my mother had some kind of surgery for overnight, just an overnight thing. And she was going to come back the next day, but I'd never been with my father alone, ever, And he says, come on, Alberto, we're going to the movies. And I said, that's about all I had. So he walks me through in the dark, You know, who's walking in the streets in the dark? In those days, it wasn't paved. We walked right through this big circle, and anyway, he got me to this place, and it was a movie theater. I'd never been to anything like it. We didn't have, you know, there was no TV, of course, in the house. We barely had the radio. And my mother, who was a singer, she never did it professionally, but she studied even in the same school as Maria Callas at the same time, by the way, the Odeon. Anyway, long story made shorter, I hope. He takes me to this movie theater. It opens up, and the first thing you see is dum ba bum, and it's in color, you know, and immediately I went like, oh my gosh, what is that? You know, and then the music starts, and Mario Lanza steps to the front of the stage in this magnificent outfit, and he sings Rigoletto. He sings something, the major, you know, one of the major pieces in Rigoletto, and I went like, what is this? Eventually, and I'm talking about the first 10 minutes, there was a knife, but a good one, in my chest, in my stomach, and my chest, saying, "This is what I want to do." I swear to you, and I wouldn't swear very often, but I do. It never left me. It was the thing I was going to do, and I worked my entire life running after that film.
So how did you get into college, into musical school, and who were your teachers when you first started?
Actually, it started after yeshiva. There was a wonderful gentleman there, was a rabbi, and whose name I cannot tell because I promised him, although he's gone, I promised him I would never tell anybody that he'd said this to me. But at the end of my 4th year in yeshiva, I walked into his office. Now, this man also took care of, you know, like if you didn't make it to Minyan, he wanted to know why, and this and da. And he caught me for about 6 times because I used to sleep late, not going to Minyan. So he calls me in his office. He says, "Look, Alberto," Abe at the time, Avraham, of course, my name. He says, "Avraham, you're not Orthodox material." I said, well, I kind of know that. I said, but I love the life, and I love being, you know, with Hashem and with all my friends and studying Gemara. And, you know, I mean, from where I came, this was like, I was already brilliant. And he says, it's okay. He says, but you're not Orthodox. And he says, I've heard you sing on Shabbos. And he says, I think you have to go to a cantorial school, and you should go to the JTS. It's cantorial. I said, what's that? You know, so he tells me, and he says, but you can never tell anyone I said this. He says, if you do, I'll refuse to admit that I said it. And I said, well, why would I ever say it to anybody? He says, just know that it could cost me a job. He says, but he did. He was the nicest man in the world, a wonderful man. And I went to New York and auditioned. And then again, the Sephardic community of Long Island had these men that owned a big women's clothing manufacturer, sportswear manufacturer. And they were asked to come to the shul and listen to this kid. So their rabbi invites me to the Sephardic synagogue, by the way. The only ones that wasn't Sephardic was the rabbi, because they got a rabbi from JTS. He was Ashkenaz, but he knew his stuff. And I sang something. I don't know, God knows only what I sang, because I wasn't a chazan. You know, but I had been open to it by Danny Gildar, Olav Shalom. I can't think of these people who die. I can't think of Robert yesterday. My God, one of my best friends in life, and as he was to so many of us.
We talked about Robert before.
I was told that you did. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And it's very hard on me, and it was very hard on Faith and Benny and a few of us who were very intimate with Robert. So,
yes. You can add me to that list. In any case, let me make this shorter than it's been. Where was I? So I went to the seminary. The seminary guys took me to these Sephardic people, and they heard me do one piece, and it wasn't Sephardic, but obviously they heard something that they liked, and they paid my fare at JTS. I've been very blessed. So how did you connect with
people like David Kusevitsky, Hugo Weisskopf, Max Wahlberg. These are giants in the field of Jewish music. So how did they mentor you, and what was the connection?
The connection was that they all of them, except Ganshof, of course, who was, I think, my main teacher, the one that taught me to be a real chazan. And if I could ever get as good as him, I would be very happy. David Kusevitsky actually did Chazanist teaching for a year, maybe a year and a half at the seminary, believe it or not. And that's a long story, but all these men and some women, as a matter of fact, taught me everything I needed to know. I mean, they made me a chazan, and the way I was so hungry to go into opera and to do opera on the side, you know, and be a chazan. So I studied with some very fine voice teachers, and then I kept going to Moshe Ganshof's house. This could be an entire hour explanation of what it meant to go to his house and do like the lesson was supposed to be about an hour, and I got there, and he lived way down in Brooklyn, along the beach, and the first thing he would say is, "Okay, let's have some lunch." So I had to take him to my car. We went to have some lunch. Took an hour and a half. Came back to the house. I saw some music on his piano. I said, "Ooh, can I have this?" He says, "You can have it when I teach you how to sing it." Okay. So that went on for a couple of years, but let me tell you, it was like I don't know. You pick the man that you would go to, that you feel you just learned everything there is to learn. You know, of course, I knew that I didn't, but the way he davened, I just can't stand listening I can't stop listening to him. And I tried to imitate a little bit and do it in my own style, but he used to come to all my concerts, and that's probably the most satisfying thing that ever happened to me as a young man, that a chazan like this would actually come out in the middle of the night and to hear a young man do a chazanis. I was very thrilled.
I mean, it was amazing because if I got onto the phone with him, I used to visit also at his apartment, him and his wife, and it was always food first, talking afterwards. And then he would say, "Alex, listen to this. I've just composed this," and you would listen, and he would, you know, sing something that he composed on the spot or he wanted you to hear. I mean, he was composing all the time. So to be in his company, I mean, he had his own ways, but you know, it didn't matter. The genius of the man, that unless you actually were very close to him, you know, people didn't realize. You just listen to his music, but it wasn't just his music. It was his very presence that you felt, and being a friend, that was important. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, I really feel of him. I mean, of course, he was my main teacher, but I also feel from him as one of my best friends, one of the best friends I've ever had. It was amazing.
So getting into opera, I know you've done the Richard Tucker Memorial Concert. How did that come about? When you were asked to perform at
I'm going to tell you what I would tell,
concert.
I would tell you what I'm going to tell any student that asks me, you know, that they want to sing opera and this and that. Opera is a terrible life for most opera singers. Only the very top have these, you know, you can be a Pavarotti, you can be all these gentlemen that are singing now, and ladies, and fantastic. But if you're just somebody who fits in, I mean, the biggest thing I ever did in opera, and I did a number of operas. I mean, thank God that was the most fun. But I realized that it was costing my family life a lot of problems, because you had to go away for 3-4 weeks, then come back, and in between daven every Shabbos, you know, flying back from wherever you were. Not a good thing. But I didn't discover a lot of, you know, it's not like being with your fellow chazanim, you know, who have a thing that they love so much. You have people who are there doing it for their, you know, because we work. That's what we do. What do you do? I sing opera. Okay. But for me, it was like a thing that I said, oh, I finally did it. And then I realized that it was a terrible life. And thank God I walked away quite a few years ago. It was good for me not to do it anymore. Once I got to Chicago, I had the last little, it was a beautiful opera, but a small one. And then I said, that's it. And just never accepted or even tried for anything else. But the chazanut and the orchestral music and things like that have kept me pretty busy and very happy.
But to cover for Pavarotti in Miami and to take over his role in Verdi, the Masked Ball, that was
Yes.
How did that happen? I mean, here's a young man, a Jewish man, a cantor, going to now. I mean, people don't equate chazonim and opera singers, say they're completely different. But if you've got the talent, which you have, Baruch Hashem, you know, you can do this. So who introduced you to saying, you know, here's a Mizrahi, a nice little Jewish boy, Sephardi from Greece, going to take over the role of Pavarotti?
Yeah. The way this works is you have to have a lot of luck. And just to think that Hashem is watching you, or somebody is. Hashem's too busy to watch me, but he sends somebody to watch over me. When I was a chazan in where was it? In New York, up northern. Yeah, White Plains, of course. Yeah. By the way, I'm getting old enough to forget things like this, so it doesn't matter. Nicht gefährlich. It's all right. I should be healthy, and you should be even more healthy, all of you. Anyway, so I went from the shul. Somebody told me he was acting like as if he was actually finding me jobs, but I never had a job through him. But he was a nice guy. And he told me, you know, Pavarotti's having a competition at the opera in Philadelphia. He says, why don't you go down there and sing something? And you never know. So I said to myself, what can I have to lose? A lot, by the way. I drove down. I'm not going to tell you the whole story because it's a kind of a weird story. But I went there. I sang Kuda Kuda from what is the Russian opera? Help me, somebody. Lansky's aria, of course.
That's it.
Yeah, and my wife knows all these things, and she's going to have to remember it even for longer. So anyhow, so I sing that, and then I said, they said, yes, thank you. Do you have something else? I said, yeah. So I sang from Bohème, and they said, thank you very much. And I said, thank you. I walked out, I went home, and I said, okay, fine. It was a nice idea. It was good. These were just people that were doing it there were about 500 people that wanted to get into this thing. So I go home at Shabbos, Sunday, Monday, I get a call. You're in the semifinals. I said, but, So I went back to Philadelphia for a week. And there were all the people who, quote unquote, had won and gotten into the actual thing, which was already a hard thing. By the way, I took all these things for granted, and I didn't realize what I was actually going through. I did a little bit more singing. We did the final day. I have a lot of stories about it, but I can't go into them too long. And basically, the best thing that ever happened was he had this wonderful looking secretary who was also a very fine soprano, and she came up to me one day in the middle of the day, just because nobody was teaching me nothing. I was waiting. Well, what am I going to do here? What I did was I sang in the last night. And she said, Luciano wants you to know that no matter what happens to you in this concert, he loves your voice. Well, I never heard. I mean, that's it. I mean, you think I'm showing off, but mamish, that's what happened. She came up and said that, and I went, oh, I don't believe it. It's just, I was beyond. But I never took it for granted. I said to myself, once you hear Pavarotti sing live right in front of you, so in any case, what happened was that the guy, I was doing some auditions still in opera, and one of the conductors of the Miami opera, I don't know if he's around anymore, but he was the big Miami opera guy, and I was singing for him. I sang Kuda Kuda. He says, do you know Bohème? I said, yeah, I can. So I did that too. And he says, okay, thank you, goodbye. And like a few weeks later, a month later, I don't remember, I get a call that they need me down to understudy Pavarotti in Ballo in Maschera. Okay, now if you don't think that's the greatest thing I ever heard in my life, it wasn't. It was that I had a baby, that my wife had a baby. That was the biggest thing in my life. But to hear I'm going to go with, so I figured, I'll be down there all these weeks with Pavarotti. He can teach me to do. Pavarotti doesn't come to the show till 2 days before. So I had to learn the opera in English and Italian. I did all of his, what's it called? Rehearsals and all of my rehearsals, which means I had no time, whatever. I had to sing, had to keep singing, warming up and sleeping. And that's about what I did for 2 weeks. And then he finally came and he sat down for a Sitzprobe, which means when you sit down on the chairs right in front of the stage and the whole group is there and you sing in semi voice so that you don't hurt yourself, because in 2 days you're going to be doing the thing. And he opens up and he starts singing what I think I'm singing also, but obviously I don't know the opera, because the way he sang was it was so magnificent, so big, and it was in sotto voce, And I said, okay, that's it. First of all, I always known I could never be a Pavarotti. I don't think I could be his grandson singing in some house somewhere. I said, forget, I gave up. So at that point, it taught me that that's it, opera is finished. I didn't at that point. I did it, I got a nice review. I have people who still remember me from that, which was nice. I did it in English, he did it in the Italian. There were 4 of each. And
but your other name, Alberta, is the Jewish Pavarotti. So
yeah, I know
people, that name has stuck with you ever since I've known you for years and years and years. So there must be something in it.
I didn't make that up. I did not. That was not my idea. Somebody started that, and that was it was in a newspaper. First of all, it's a review. Somebody said, the Jewish Pavarotti, and I didn't even read the review until later. But somebody said, let's call him, because they wanted me to get more, whatever. Anyway, yeah, it was fun. It was unbelievable. And these are things that, as you get older, you cannot forget. You can forget a lot of things, by the way. But things like this, you do not forget.
But you sung with the world's famous conductors and orchestras and including the Chicago Symphony, which brought you together with composer-conductor Krzysztof Penderecki and the Seventh Symphony, the Seven Gates of Jerusalem. How did that come about? And that was another collaboration into the world of classical music.
Classical music is one thing. I did do a number of classical concerts, but to sing with an orchestra like this, actually, the whole thing, that's too long. All right, I'll just tell you very short the answer. I'll tell you to what you're asking, but I'm going to tell you how it started. It started when I was a Hazzan in Cleveland, I think, or New York. I don't remember where I was. But I got a call from the first flute of the symphony, New York Symphony. And I said, hello. She says, yes, I'm Miss So-and-so. And she says, I want you to do this piece that I have. I said, well, how could you even hear of me? She says, I saw you on television with Zamir Corral, Mati Lazar. So we had this magnificent concert, fun concert and I was part of the choir, but by that time I was singing only the solos. And she saw it on television and she said, I saw how they came and hugged you, the choir. I said, okay. She says, I liked your energy. Okay, fine, thank you. What is it? So there was this piece the Klezmer Rondos. Have you ever heard of it? It was by a Jewish, no, it wasn't Paul Ben Chaim, but it was a guy, he used to teach in Ohio, and I think now he's in Israel, actually. So that's how that started. Once I got that gig, I had like 5 performances of that in New York, which is pretty big. Then it went out that, hey, if you need a Jewish, because this was a Jewish piece, if you need a Jewish piece, a guy, not today, it's other people that are on our screen, but in those days. So that's what happened there. We moved to Chicago, and I was in Chicago as a Hazzan for 32 years at Anshe Emet. I just retired this year. And I had an opera there before I went. It was like the last week before I was to start as Hazzan, and it happened to be in Chicago. So I did the opera. That was it. That was my last opera. Thank God. And a few years later, the daughter of a very fine Chazan, Reform Chazan, Jerry Phrases, magnificent baritone voice, unbelievable, Allah Shalom. His daughter was working at the symphony. She was a symphony assistant conductor to the voices, the choir of the symphony. And I get a call. This is a few years into this thing already. I was already in my 40s. Yeah. And and I get a call from the symphony. We need somebody to do this thing with the Maestro Penderecki, the Seven Gates of Jerusalem. I'd never heard the Seven Gates of Jerusalem. I really didn't know who Penderecki was, although I found out that he wrote the hardest music ever written. It was like wild music, but it's not music. You don't have to sing. Good. It was this. It was about the dry bones, Ezekiel's dry bones. That's exactly what it was. That was a little bit of the thing that was mostly Christian. But this was his moment of like Jerusalem and Judaism and that kind of thing. And to make a long story short, when I did it as a test because he wanted it in English. So for a little bit, I sang it in Hebrew. But I did it in the nusach in Hebrew using his music because it was really very close to it. And I looked at him and I thought he was going to throw a knife, and then he started crying. So because he heard the music, he heard the original. You know what I mean? A non-Jew who doesn't go to shul doesn't hear a lot of Hebrew singing. That was a very big thing for me, and we did 4 performances or so with it, and it was a big hit. And I was not the biggest hit. It was a very small part of the thing, but it was very important to him. So I get a call a few months later, a few years later, I don't even remember anymore. He says, Alberto, we need you. I said, well, what do you need? I said, I'm a chazan. So his wife says, no. He says, he's just written a Kaddish for the lodge community, the community of Lodz, which has a program every year, remembering the people that were killed in Lodz by the Nazis. And he had been hired to do this piece, and they wanted him to write a Kaddish. So he wrote a Kaddish, and he went down to a friend of his in Italy who had retired many years before from the opera, La Scala. And he says to him, I don't know how to write a Kaddish. He says, it's okay, come down here. And he did with his wife. And because his grandfather was a chazan in Russia, and he remembered the Kaddish from Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and he taught it to Penderecki. Penderecki wrote this magnificent piece, 3-part piece. One was talking by a very famous actor in Poland. The second one was a beautiful soprano section, and then it ends, and all you hear is the whole orchestra is doing just that. And you hear one ta-ta, bam, and it's Yit Kadol ve'Yit Kadosh Shemei Rabbo. Male choir, Amen. Well, this, I mean, I get like my body shakes when I start doing this, first because it means something to us, right? And I'm doing it remembering all my family that died in the Nazi camps, and here we are in Lodz, and this thing took off, and we did it in the biggest church in Warsaw. I mean, 3,000 people in a church, if you can imagine that. We did this piece, and then we did it all over Europe. So that was my famous thing. And then I came home, and I get another call, but this is about 3 years later. And Maestro Muti needs someone to do, and it's all of this happened because of the daughter of this chazan who was the conductor there. He said, get me a rabbi. She said, no, you don't want a rabbi. You want a cantor. He says, I have the right guy. And it's this, the Schoenberg Kol Nidre. Very few people do, but you probably do. It was made so as to like take away the thing that the Kol Nidre that we know.
Is that the one you're talking about, conducted by Muti, that you did with the Chicago?
Yes. It was the first recording of that was by the French conductor Boulez. He has a recording with this British baritone who did my part. My part was his part, but then I took it. Anyway, and Muti really hated that recording. We don't have time. I'm talking too much, right? But
no. We've got all the time that you want. We're all
All right.
fascinated. If you've got the time, so have we.
I have the time. So here's what happened to this. I get the job. How? They said, because I'm me and they know me, and I already have quite a reputation in Chicago, and I've been around a long time already. So they call me and I go in, and the first 4 or 5 rehearsals were with the conductor of the chorus, not the assistant conductor, the conductor, and he takes me in and he's like scared. I don't want to use the word, very scared. How's that? And he says, listen, you gotta when you go in to see Maestro, you gotta be 100% on this thing. So I said, yeah, but it's mostly speaking. There's very little singing. In fact, if you want to hear, what was my first word? Hashem. I think it's Hashem. Yeah, it's Hashem, but using the regular name, and it's like, Hashem. That was the beginning. If you can imagine the rest of it, it was unbelievable. The piece is amazing, but he wanted little things. So he says, when you get in to talk with Maestro Muti, don't talk to him. Let him talk to you. Don't get in his way. Don't do this. Don't do that. I felt like a 14-year-old. I said, okay, I'll go. I'll be nice. Yeah, I'll dress well. So I go in to see him. So this is a good one. Who's the first person to walk into the room? Maestro Boulez. Why? He was in town to do a thing with the Chicago Symphony, and he says to me, "I hear you're doing I hear you're doing the Kol Nidre." I said, yes. I said, I've heard your recording. He says, my recording. I'm the only one has recorded this with, I forgot his name, but he's very famous baritone. I said, it was beautiful. I said, I hope I can do it the same, And then in walks Muti. How do you know a person? You see his face. You hear the first few words. You see how he hands you his hand. Is it a strong, or is he going to like, okay, get out of my way, kid? He comes in, he says, "Oh, Boulez, what you doing here? Oh, how are you? Oh, so nice. Oh, Alberto, have you met I said, oh, yes, I just met him. He's been here and he says, Maestro, what was Boulez's first name? Pierre. He says, Pierre, this is our first rehearsal. And I feel like I need to have just Alberto in the room, if you don't mind. He kicked him out. I couldn't believe it. Oh man, it taught me a little bit about him. He's an amazing man, by the way. I mean, Muti he's it. For me, he's it. He's number one, and he's like 0. You can't come back. Anyway, so he sits down, sits on a chair the opposite way, and he says, "So, you've heard about me?" That's the first thing he says. And from there on, we became such close friends. We still are. All those times we did 4 or 5 performances, and the biggest deal was that the symphony decided to print it and make it into a record, and the record got best record of the month in New York in the Times. So right away that felt pretty good. I do not take the thing. It's because it was Muti, but thank God Muti was very happy with me, and this was that's the last big thing I've done,
We're going to have another little bit of a musical interlude, but I want to play the Hashanah that you sang with Moshe live, because I'd like people. Yeah, to me it's something very, very special, and if people haven't heard it or seen it, I think they should, and maybe we say a few words about it afterwards. So
I think this was his 90th birthday. We did a town hall, and we did one at the seminary also. I don't remember which one is which. Good acoustics in there.
There's Jackie.
Yeah. There's the man.
And yeah.
His cohorts have joined him for this last selection.
By the way, I've lost 100 pounds.
And please join in the refrain.
You have to tell me your secret.
I will. It's not a secret. It was, again, luck. Oh my God, who's that?
absolutely brilliant. It just sums up relationships with Moshe Ganshoff, Zichron Livracha, and what he brought to Chazanas and to you and to Jackie and to Izzy and to all who he taught and mentored.
Yeah, it brings tears to my eyes to watch and to hear him. Did you notice that the other two boys kept me out of it pretty much?
Yeah.
And
yeah, well,
he
he kept on stipping Jackie, didn't he?
yeah. You know what? It was worth every second. We did a lot of music that evening, and we all got our parts. But that was just to be standing next to the man that wrote, sang, and taught that piece and hundreds of others. It's quite something, very something.
So you also have another side of you, jazz. How did you get involved? I know you're so multifaceted, multi-talented, so and all different genres of music. So tell us about jazz, baby.
Yeah, well, we have this thing at my shul that I just retired from. Every year we had, what was it called? Sort of. No, the Kaplan concert. Yeah, it's a long story. A gentleman that gave us a huge amount of money, and I said to the guys, we ought to have a concert in his name, and that's what we did for about 12, 14 years. And one day, I don't remember who it was. Must have been with Russell. No. Howard Levy. Yeah. So I was sitting with Howard Levy, an incredible harmonica player and jazz pianist. And I said, you have enough of a group that we could do some Jewish stuff instead. In fact, I took some of the small things from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, not the big numbers, but the one word, the one sentence kind of things that we have in front of inside the davening. And I put, I don't know what came over me, but I made them all into jazz. And it was probably the most, even though, look, Jackie and everybody else, all the other Chazanim and Chazaniot and everybody else who's came to the shul to do that concert, I used to invite all my friends. But this was a very special night, and we have a lady who designed that thing.
Unbelievable.
Mimi, yeah, of course. Mimi Weisberg. Mimi Weisberg made the hallway, the feeding, the community hall into a jazz club. It really, it looks just like a jazz club. It was unbelievable. And I sang this thing, a bunch of things. I'm not going to do it here, but if anybody wants to hear it, we'll send you something. Anyway, but we did this, and we had the lady that was the top jazz singer in that year in Chicago, and she and I became good friends, and we did duets where she go and I go I was thinking of doing that for Yom Kippur next year, so we'll see.
Yeah, good to scout. Good scouting. It's very good. Yeah. Eat your heart out, Ella Fitzgerald.
That's right. You tell him. Besides, I'm much louder than Ella. Actually, I'm not sure of that. Anyhow, but that was that's my jazz thing. I have my friend, and I forgot, for God's sake, yes, Dave Brubeck. Good God.
Yeah, Dave Brubeck.
Yes, and I sang the. Actually, we recorded that piece. What was it? The Biggie. Oh God, I wish I could remember. Somebody out there, everybody, all the Chazanim that are listening to this know the number. The only one that forgot it is me. It's a magnificent piece for brotherhood. And there's the
Saffron Caravan Ensemble. Was that the thing?
Yeah.
With the for peace, for multi-religious ensemble.
Right. It's a multi-religious thing, right? And in fact, it's a magnificent piece. Much of the speaking and wording was by his wife, who was a brilliant woman, and
You presented this in Quebec as well, didn't you? In one of the synagogues.
That was the last time. The last time I did it, I must have done that thing about, I don't know, 25 times with the Dave Brubeck Quartet, which is Gate. I forget. It doesn't matter. I forgot the name. Okay, it happens. I'm an old man. All right. But Brubeck wrote this, and we recorded it, in fact, for the very large collection, the Milken collection, or Milken music that they did, the Jewish music of America in the 20th century, run by Neil Levin.
And you did this with conducted by Jared Schwartz at the Disney Theatre. Was that the one
Yes.
you're talking about? Yeah.
We recorded that. We recorded that with him, with Jerry Schwartz, but it was done all over the country. And the last time I sang it actually was the opening of the Newport Jazz Festival, which was really something. The worst part of that, I mean, the best part of it was that we were doing it in the Jazz Festival. Worst part of it was about 110 degrees, and I was sweating the entire evening. I'll never forget that evening. Couldn't wait to get off the stage, because it's a long piece, but it's a magnificent piece.
But you also sang in the White House at a Hanukkah concert.
Yeah.
So it's just another one of the normal life in the day of Alberto Mizrahi. and then you collaborated with another good friend of mine, Naftali Herstik, and his son-in-law Mark Temelis, and the Ne'ima singers from London. So that was in the big synagogue in Amsterdam. So
yeah. Actually, Amsterdam. Wait a minute. Amsterdam was our trio, wasn't it?
Ben Sion.
Yeah, Ben Sion Miller and Herstik.
Naftali and you, and Ben Sion. With the Ne'ima singers from London.
Right, that was an amazing concert in that shul, because the acoustic is fabulous. In not in London. I mean, this was in
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, yeah. And then, of course, we also did it for the general public in a very, very large hall over there. That was a great time. It was a great time. We did a lot of concerts together. Yeah.
So what does the future hold for Alberto Mizrahi? Because we never retire. We've always got another project and another project. I know you're going to spend pace, please God, if COVID permitting, in Greece. But
yes,
with your cousin. So any projects in advance that you are thinking of doing, or you say, yes, Alex, I'm coming to the your next convention in Budapest in November, and I would love to be there as one of your teachers?
I'll tell you, Alex, I used to be invited to these things that
you're very, very welcome, because some of your colleagues will be there, Benny, and there's loads of people that you will know.
Really?
And everybody's coming. We've got the girls coming as well. So
But you have to make a concert, though. I mean, that's
we're having a concert. We're doing all sorts of things. So you are so welcome.
Why don't you let me know the date, and when COVID is over, I'll be right there with you.
So you heard it here on VOC.
Mirza Hashem.
So the first time. It's absolutely brilliant. I think I want to end the musical thing with you choose either Yerushalayim or Hineni. What would you prefer us to play?
That's a tough one.
They're both fabulous.
The Hineni. You know, I would do the Hineni only because my predecessor in Chicago was Moses J. Silverman.
Yeah.
And Moses Silverman was in the synagogue for 42 years. And I was there 32 years. I guess I was too old when I got there to make it 42. This is the Hineni was written by him, and I did it for my 32 years, and I've taught it to the wonderful young Cantor, a young lady Cantor, but I taught it to her, and we went over it a lot so that it would sound similar. And people came to me later and they said, "She did your Hineni, it was beautiful." I said, "Thank God, that's what I wanted." You know, I wanted it to be good. She's very good. in memory of
Hazzan Silverman, yeah. So we'll play the Hineni and then we'll open it to questions from the audience.
That's fine. Was Mimi.
Incredible. Thank you so much for such a fascinating insight into your life, and it's such a pleasure after such a long time. And please God, you should continue to give people pleasure, give your family pleasure, have mazel, have bracha, and have good health. And thank you so much. And I would like now to call on Geraldine, who's going to take over from me with question time. So if anybody wants to ask Alberto a question, please raise your hand virtually, and hopefully Alberto will be with us and answer it. Faith has a question. Sorry, Geraldine.
Sorry to usurp you, Geraldine. Alberto Mizrahi, Hazzan, you are amazing. You are inspiring every time I hear you. And I just wanted to ask you something about, as a great soloist, it's just interesting to me, committed so much of your life to advancing Jewish choral music, like with Zamir. I just want to, could you say a few words about that? Because that's an incredible thing.
Yes, I agree with you. Mati Lazar and I are very good friends. And when I first got to New York to go to the seminary, one of the first things that happened, of course, Mati was just in the choir at that point, was Stanley Sperber. Stanley Sperber, who conducts in Israel now for many years, but he was the conductor of Zamir Chorale. Zamir Chorale became the place that I loved the most for a long time. I was just one of the tenors, but eventually I became one of their soloists, and I would do a number of songs with them. And what has happened to the choir, to Jewish choral music in the last 20 years or more, probably maybe 30, I don't know how old am I? Anyway, is that Zamir itself has grown to a point where now they have what used to be young kids, and they have hundreds of Jewish children singing magnificent choral music, not just good, magnificent. Mati Lazar is a very, he conducts, and you better listen. He's really very good at that, and he should be. But it is one of the great things that ever happened in my life to be able to feel being in a choir of 60 people or whatever, and doing gorgeous Jewish music of every sort, everything from Yiddish to Israeli to Chazanas to everything. Yeah, it was, I don't know, actually it should be in here. It is something that I truly cherish, and I'm so happy you came up with that question, because I didn't mention it, and it should be really one of the first things that happened to me when I was in New York, that I learned that, and I stayed with them, and I'm still with them, sort of, and just not around so much, but I was with them for a long, long time. I'm still very close friends with the Lazars. So thank you for that question.
Thank you, Faith, for the question. And Alberto, hi, it's Geraldine here.
Too long, Geraldine, too long.
We've done some real fun things together with Malcolm Singer and the Zemel Choir, with the BBC Singers in Spitalfields,
that was
with the Yehudi Menuhin Orchestra. We've done wonderful things together. So it's lovely to be with you on this call, and wonderful to hear your stories and your music. So while people are putting up their hands, perhaps you can give us some memories of London.
London, first of all, London is my favorite place to go outside of America. And you were a big thing for me in London, my dear. You invited me to all these various things to sing, and I became known to a point. But to sing with the chorus of the BBC the BBC chorus, which I did a few times. I don't know if it was always under your thing, but certainly the first times it was. And Malcolm, that's right. Of course, Malcolm was.
Malcolm's,
yeah. Well, I remember that 14th century church that's down in the market area. In Spitalfields, that's right.
Spitalfields, that's right.
Oh God,
yeah.
That was one of my favorite concerts. I mean, you brought me to these beautiful hallways, but to do it in an old place like that with an acoustic, that's unbelievable. I had such a great time. I miss London. I haven't been there in quite a while. Not because I wasn't invited, just it's been busy. It's been crazy. And now I think it's time to come back and say hello. So Alex, I might take you up on that. Just send me the date. Yeah. Hey, I have the time. I can go.
Steve Robbins, you wanted to say something? Unmute and please.
Hi, I met you actually at the conventions, sort of when you were singing with, I think it was Ben Susan. You did some the duets together, which were sensational.
Sephardic. We didn't get into the Sephardic once. That's terrible because it's one of my favorite ways of singing. So go ahead.
Perhaps it was Ladino. I don't know. I don't remember quite. Anyway, I mention all this because during one of these conventions, I heard Faith for the first time, and I'd never actually heard a female cantor before, and I was very dubious. But boy, did she blow me away! She sang Rosa de Shabbos. And, you could buy cassettes afterwards, which I managed to buy, and it's quite inspirational. And
she's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I have vivid memories of her, actually. It was the last night of the convention, and she came onto the stage dressed in white, and she floated on the stage like an angel. It was the most amazing thing to see. I mean, it's not just a question of singing beautifully, as she did, but also looked the part too, like an angel. It was incredible. Anyway, just one thing about what you said about coming to London choirs. I have sung many things, most of the major places in London, and choirs. Well, I started my own choir in Woodside Park, where I am now. They never had a choir before, and we started with a choir all from my shul, 16 choruses, which I managed to get together, and we did Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which was absolutely amazing. Anyway, I'm retired now for the last 2 or 3 years, not done much, but I'm still influencing as much as I can. I've got several young people that I'm teaching, and I'm holding the baton for these people to get going and to actually take up the profession. So
good for you. Good for you. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Actually, I just remembered that I was in London a few years ago, not too many, for the Milken project. And we sang with a Christian, I don't know, Christian, it was just children's choir inside, I don't remember, it may have been a church or it may have been just a choral place. I just would get to wherever they took me and sing. But they were unbelievable. You guys have children's choirs there that actually, that's how you build musicians. That's how you build people who love music and who love, so it's amazing. It was amazing. So that was a great thing. And that reminds me a lot of Zamir in New York. They're similar, very similar.
Yeah, there was
anyway,
actually Stephen Glass put on a children's choir for the JNF called Walter for Israel, and that was sensational. I mean, it was really quite something. And actually, there are children's choirs actually in the JFS school. A gentleman, actually Simon Appleman, who actually only retired from that position just recently, put out some CDs and stuff that he's done with kids from his school, from JFS, which are absolutely amazing. So yeah, we've got a few people doing stuff. In actual fact, Simon Appleman was my conductor for my choir. Yes, and a very wonderful man too.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you.
Say something to Abe. Abe, it was my fault for not bringing up the Sephardi, but when you mention it, it brings back memories to Ellis Island, and you see doing the Sephardi piece for the Cantors Convention in 1998, which I attended in New York. It was below the Twin Towers when they were up, and you were singing there the Sephardi Nigunim and songs with another good friend of mine, Aaron Ben Sussan, and it blew people away. So
the Moroccan and the Greek. We took from both sides. And those were some of the most fun things I've ever done, are these Sephardic concerts with Ben Susan and with, Gerard Edry, who now lives in Poland, actually. But those were great days.
I think we did those for the 300th anniversary of Bevis Marks. We did Sons of Sepharad, yeah?
Oh, yes, we sang there. Oh, yes, I remember singing that beautiful shul. Oh, wow, yeah. I guess there's been a lot in... I can't remember it all. It's amazing.
You've done a lot of stuff, Abe.
Yeah,
it ain't over. It ain't over. Listen, this is the time you take a guy, just turned 73, and... I'm going to be 74. Don't tell anybody though. And you bring me down again. You'll see. You'll notice not much difference. So.
No, but we'll talk about it. We'll get together. I'll send you an email, or I'll give you a phone call, and we'll tell you what's going on in November in Budapest.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, appreciate it. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Over to you again, Geraldine. Sorry.
Well. I don't see any hands, virtual or not, but if anybody wants to jump in, just unmute yourself and you may say what you want to say. Neil, did you want to say something or just wave to...
Well, no, just a personal note to Abe, whom I've known long enough to be able to call him Abe rather than Alberto.
It's either way.
Having seen you in Anshe Emet when I go to visit my son and daughter-in-law and now 6-year-old granddaughter each year. I want to let you know that your loss of 100 pounds has inspired me to lose 40 pounds in the last year.
Mazel tov.
Thank you so much for that inspiration.
That's great, Neil. Faith.
Well, one doesn't recognize Abe. I was hoping to actually see you, but Zoom user, do you want to speak? Having wrapped up all your things in cling wrap and tinfoil?
Yes.
Joan.
I want Abe to acknowledge that behind every man who's successful is the woman, his wife, Deborah.
Baruch Hashem. Yes. I mean, I take it for granted, and that's not a right thing to do, but I do. I wouldn't be anywhere without her. Honestly, it's because she runs life, and then I go sing. So it's kind of, it happens to us. But yes, she's right here. As a matter of fact, and if it wasn't for her, I would have forgotten about half the names of things that I threw out. So yes, we are very, very happy to have just finished our 50th year together, and God willing, many more. Mir Tashem.
Yeah, indeed. Florence.
Yes, I have to say welcome to Alberto and welcome to everybody. I was so grateful that Deborah invited me to listen to this program today. Alberto goes back to when I was a child, and he was a child in Cleveland, Ohio, and he would come to my dad's house, Cantor Saul Meisels, where they would sing together and they would share things, share songs, share prayers. And so many of the names that you have said today are familiar to me, and it's been a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I almost didn't make it. It's good. Anyway.
Yeah, we're glad that you finally got hooked up. And we've all been so thrilled and entertained and illuminated by the beautiful things you've sung and the things you've told us about. So, Alex, thank you for bringing Alberto and for doing a wonderful presentation with him, as usual. Do you want to tell us what's next in this glowing series?
In 2 weeks' time, we have Gideon Zellermeyer has agreed to join us in the room, and I'm going to have a chat with him about his career. Very, very fascinating, young, talented man who's Hazzan Emeritus, the big shul in Montreal. Tremendous talent, and I'm quite interested to listen to his relationship with the Leonard Cohen and his choir and various other things in his career. So 2 weeks' time, please join us for my chat with Gideon. And if any of you guys here have any ideas of what you'd like us to do or be part of, please send us an email, alex@cantors.eu. I think Russell will put it in the chat box, and I will look forward to hearing from you with your brilliant ideas and things that maybe we can do for you, or you can do for us, or we can be in partnership with, because we are a platform that develops ideas and things from you out there, from the Chazonim, from the public, and we try and educate and teach and bring beautiful music together. I mean, my ambition, I would love, if it was capable on Zoom, I'd love to unmute everybody, put some music in front of you, and we can all sing together, because that's we've been starved of because of the pandemic and because of COVID. So Budapest is going to be something quite unique, and we've started to work on it, and I want to tell you about it. It's in the Rumbach Shul, which is the newly renovated, fabulous shul. The acoustics are tremendous, and the Hungarian community are hosting us. And the convention is open to Chazanim of every denomination. It doesn't matter which branch of Judaism you belong to. You are welcome. We are non-political. We are not affiliated to anybody. Our aim is to teach, to have fun, to get together right across the board and do what we're meant to do. Praise the Lord through music. And that is, open the gates of heaven, because we definitely need it. show the world and be together, because Achdus is something that is, this is my aim, this is what I want. We're all one people, Am Echad, and we should all be together, because Kol HaKavod to everyone who's joined in tonight. Thank you once again, Alberto, Abe. Thank your wife for letting me do it, and God bless you. And please God, we'll meet again very, very soon in the flesh.
Lovely. Love you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great week. Have a great day, and speak to you soon.
Bye.